Let's move on to our top 10 of the week. This is top 10 games that create memories. These are games that we think will best facilitate lifelong, year-long memes in your group, jokes,
right. Yeah, inside jokes,
the thing you say to your friend
That's
10
right.
years later that makes sense to no one else in the room, but both of you know that it's that one moment in the game where he stabbed you in the back, and it's still funny to you.
It's still fresh.
Yeah. So we're going to do our top 10s. I put mine in order. I hope you did as well.
I did as well, although it's loose. Like, you know, how could it's
I
very
spent 6
subjective.
hours working on this, Paul.
Did you? Oh, that's great.
These
That's
numbers
great.
are
you
very strict.
Well done.
Do you want to start? Dealer's choice.
Sure. Like, actually, I just want to give a little context.
Please.
Like, so for me, like the top 10 list was kind of tough for me, like coming up with an idea because, you know, I don't have the same breadth of knowledge that, say, someone like Tom has, you know, as far as games, and I'm not as interesting as, say, Dimitri. So, I was really struggling to find a top 10 until I think you sent me sent the whole group I think his name is Scott Westerfeld video about how victory points suck.
Yeah, that was the name of his like sort of TED-esque talk at Shucks. Yeah,
and it was very interesting because he basically said like victory points, you have this kind of accounting that happens at the end, and this accounting takes away from the narrative of the game, and victory conditions are better, and you know that type of thing. And I think for our group, our response was like, you have a point, but like it's not all inclusive. Like, you know, like not all games need to be narrative because like for all of it, some games are just like an exercise in excellence. I want to build the biggest engine. I want the way I describe it is I call it achievement simplification because like we as humans, like we have to kind of achieve in this world that we live in, and the games are, I mean, not the games, but the rules are really vast, and we don't know all the rules, and games are this simplification of the rules. Like, you know, so this is what we focus on, and this is why I feel like we have game brains.
Right. We get a dopamine rush off of the simulation of something that we already want.
And so, you know, and that's where I lean towards. But then I thought more about it, and I go, but truthfully, like, you know, the Euros try to simplify and make those rules fair for that simulation.
Right.
But really, I played Agricola a lot, and I can't remember one game of Agricola.
Well, that's sort of the thing that sort of led to this, right? I mean, like if we look at our we don't walk around being like, yo, remember that time that you put your worker on that spot right there, and you took the occupation card, like, oh man, yo, remember that time we played Trois and you bought my die and I needed it? Oh man,
absolutely.
That doesn't happen.
And so, and I come to realize that, like, in the end, like there is a certain narrative that that creates memories. So it's like, you know, you play games for two reasons. You play games to pass the time, and you know, and you play games for those memories as well. And they're not exactly the same games.
Yeah.
So I thought like, oh well, like, I'm a person who really enjoys, you know, creating these memories between my dear friends. And
that's when I know you're most happiest at a table, is I feel like when I can tell those memories are being created.
Exactly.
When there's an inside joke or a future meme or some kind of thing that we are referencing, I know that in those moments, that's when you have the biggest smile on your face.
That is absolutely true. And it could be someone, you know, doing something amazing. Yeah. But more likely someone about to table flip.
Yeah, it's most likely somebody breaking.
Yeah. So, and so, like, you know, so this is how I came up with the list.
No, it's brilliant, and I actually had a really good time putting together this list. And it as you would imagine, it made me think of great memories or not great memories.
Exactly.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Sure, I'll start. Like, I think for top 10, like, you know, like number 10 would be, and this is the give me kind of thing, like any kind of legacy game. You know, like any kind, like for me, the legacy game I enjoy the most is SeaFall.
Yeah.
But the problem with legacy games, you kind of play it once and like you know what's going to happen.
So for people who don't know, legacy is a series of games wherein you make changes that forever change the state of the game permanently.
Yes.
Whether it's putting stickers on the board, writing your name on the board, ripping up cards. The most famous is Pandemic Legacy. Gloomhaven is a legacy.
Yep.
Risk Legacy we played. SeaFall is sort of a Euro take on Legacy from Plaid Hat Games. And yeah, tell us why that was sort of your favorite of those.
I think for me, like it was you, me, Trey, Alfred, and there's this exploration aspect to it, and you're basically going like, oh, I'm going to find out what this, you know, the world of...
It's sort of the Age of Sail is sort of the theme of it.
And I felt like I was really in the world, which is something like I'm usually not a person who cares too much about theme as far as, but like I felt like
you don't need it.
Yes, the way I describe it is like if I was going to a restaurant, like ambiance is lower than quality of food.
Yeah.
And so this is the ambiance. Theme is ambiance of the thing.
Got it.
And so I go like, oh, well, this is really, I feel invested in this kind of world. And I thought it was really good how it achieved that. You know, I've played Gloomhaven and people love Gloomhaven. And I think it's great. But for whatever reason, like SeaFall is hit a better spot for me.
Yeah.
And it's really cheap now, I think. I think it's like you could get it for...
I think they're giving them away.
Yeah, exactly.
It was not, it was sort of the first like stumble. And I think it actually was a pretty big stumble in terms, not in terms of them or design or anything, but I think it set back I think it stopped the legacy hotness. Every game must be legacy kind of thing a little bit. People went, oh, no. People are a little more picky about their legacy games.
Yeah. But you know, for me, it was great playing with the group. And I think at the price point right now, it's an easy buy if you have.
Yeah, you have to like Euro games, and you have to like slightly heavy games, and you have to be down to at least get. We didn't finish it.
No. But,
we got. I think we were 2 games away, maybe from the end.
Exactly.
And it seems like a crazy thing to stop at that point. But you know what? We know why we stopped because I had a baby.
Well,
it was right before we had.
You know, I still resent Strider for that.
Yeah, as you should, as you should. My number 10. Some of these I've sort of actually all of these I've kind of grouped into categories because I think the category is as important. But I'll always give you my number 1 here. So here, 18xx, brutal economic games. I think any game where you can lose the entire game on turn 1 will facilitate memories. 18xx, Age of Steam, or Brass are all hardcore, brutal economic games wherein if you don't know how to play the game well,
good luck.
You've lost turn 1 probably, and that's funny.
That's funny, yes.
But it's also the more experienced you get, the better at it. You start seeing those potential risks in front of you. You start loving that brutalness of it, and I think you're able to really enjoy. I remember almost all my games of Age of Steam or 18xx or Brass because they're often. I got beat up or somebody else got beat up, and if you love these games, it's not a negative player experience in my opinion. It's often just funny. I don't know how else to put it.
No.
There's something funny.
Tears and laughter
about somebody going bankrupt in a game. I mean, we've all had it in Monopoly. It's all, you know, it's fun. I mean, you know, your little sibling is sobbing and you're laughing, and you know they're laughing through the tears because it's not a real thing that happened, but it's like it's a bad feeling.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, brutal economic games are the closest we're going to get to Euros here in terms of games that create memories.
Yeah, absolutely. For number 9 for me, this is probably the only Euro on my list, and it is Friedrich.
Yes. Wow.
So
tell us about Friedrich.
So the Friedrich, basically, you're playing 1 of 4 powers. You're playing like France, Prussia, Russia, or Austria, I believe. And I don't know if you're going to remember the game so much if you're France, Russia.
This is sort of a 3-player game, right? 3 to 4 player. Yeah. Maria is the 3-player only one, right?
4. It's best at 4.
Right.
And
sure. Maria is the 3-player one.
The thing that makes it so memorable is like if you're playing Prussia, if you're playing Friedrich the Great, you basically are the biggest Battlestar General. The problem is like 3 people are playing at you at once, and you're going to remember that. You're going to remember, hey, I can beat any one of you, but you know I can't beat all 3 of you simultaneously. So that decision space that you have to make, that tension of like having to deal with, oh, here's Russia, I got to stop them. Oh man, I can't defeat Russia. I can just stop them. Now I got to go here with France or Austria. It's quite fun. It's
also a game where if you know the history behind it and the story, it is a very immersive historical experience.
Exactly.
All of his games. He did a game called Wor sind das Volk that Tom taught me that was very interesting. Maria is also obviously sort of the 3-player version of this. But yeah, any sort of like very historical recreation where you can go off the rails and like sort of do a crazy historical what if. I think those can often create really fun stories that you remember.
Yeah, but I like I said, like, you know, Friedrich, if you're playing Prussia, you'll definitely remember if you don't, even if you get like rocked, you know, you're going to remember that. If you're able to like defend, you're going to remember that. It's quite good.
It's very asymmetric.
It's all asymmetric, like, you know. And I've
never played Friedrich. Yeah.
Let me phrase it. It's asymmetric if you're playing Prussia.
Okay.
So I think that like you're gonna enjoy or hate it. Either way, you're gonna remember it.
Right. That's awesome. I love it. I'm excited to try that. I need to play that one of these days. My number 9 is Kingdom Death Monster.
I don't know what that is.
Kingdom Death Monster is a game I'm dying to play with you. It's the number one game on this list that I wish I had played with you. I also put this under the category of campaign games along the lines of Arcadia Quest or Journeys of Middle-earth, Mansions of Madness, Descent, Imperial Assault, all those. Kingdom Death Monster is my favorite campaign game, easily. Because it is built around the idea of almost everything happening in the game being so ridiculously over the top and insane that it's one of those games that even if you've gone through some of the scenarios and seen some of the cards, you are dying to see what happens to other people's faces when you find out, and even to say what happens would spoil things. This is how's the best way to describe it? This is a boss fight the game.
Nice. Okay?
So all you're doing is boss fights, and then preparing for the next worst boss fight. And this is a game. You will die constantly in this game. So you are throwing bodies at bosses, but you're playing these characters.
Sure.
But you must be prepared to throw your body at the boss. So hopefully, just one of you survives.
Gotcha.
And so the play experience of being like, I'm going to do it, guys. I think our best chances is if the three of us just die right now.
That's right.
And you just
Rush.
pray you roll a 1 and survive, just so that we get the last hit point in. And then, when your character dies, you go back to your community, your little village you've built. And part of the game is the whole game is a cooperative village simulation. Where you're birthing people and then sending them out to die.
Oh, great! Like there's nothing more fun than that,
right? But every time you create new people, you do die rolls on them, and you do die rolls on their mental health, on their physical abilities, all these things. So you create like psychopath. You literally create psychopaths. You actually have cards that say you are a sociopath. You might stab your own person in your group.
Sure.
You steal, and the stronger they are, often the more sort of weaknesses they have mentally and things, so many funny stories come out of it, but also it's just also things like when you stab the monster and you pull a card to see where you hit it, and on the opening monster you can stab it in the penis, and that will be funny every time, especially when you crit on it and take his penis.
Wow,
which is actually a thing that can happen. You can take the lion's testicles and penis and use them to make a hat back at your village.
This is it's a certain type of game.
It is an X-rated game.
Oh,
it is highly graphic, both in terms of violence and nudity, and in terms of awful things that happen. I mean, just like terrifying, horrible things happen to your group, and they are graphic and upsetting. But there's also a level of sort of death metal, this is a little over the top and silly on purpose.
It sounds like a little bit like the feeling of Cards Against Humanity kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, if you were to take that and I mean, it's the closest I've gotten to D&D in a campaign game.
Gotcha.
It's the dream of D&D as a DM-less campaign game. It's also a $300 game.
Oh, well then that's outside of my
It's outside of most people's, and I was lucky enough to get a copy a while ago. You can still get them. It's $300 board. It's $300 game, and expansions are about $100 each.
Yikes.
It is one of the most expensive games you will ever play, but if it is right for your group, it is a near perfect experience.
Awesome. I see. So we're number 8 now.
Yep.
I pick a classic for our group is Eclipse.
Yeah.
Waiting
on 2.0, never going to get it.
I think
4X space exploration.
Yep.
Dice rolling,
territory creation, and it has all
classic 4X.
Yeah, classic 4X, and ultimately, I have really fond memories when we were figuring out this game.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time when we first played this game. I was playing a race that would expand. Tom was trying to get to me. He couldn't get to me. He asked Dimitri to do that. Mm-hmm. Dimitri goes, no, I'm going to work on my thing. And Tom just got pissed at Dimitri. He just, I wouldn't say yelled, but he yelled at Dimitri. And in the end, Dimitri won. And it was just so funny to basically...
That happened at a charity event that I had thrown,
yes,
right?
a nice charity. For someone with cancer, I believe.
A board game charity event that I held. and it devolved into two of my friends screaming at each other.
It was great to watch, but like ultimately, if you can just divorce your need to win a little bit and just go in with this sense of like, oh, I'm gonna try to build this armada, conquer a bunch of space, blah blah blah. It's a 4X game, right? But for 4X games, like
with asymmetrical powers, much like Gaia Project.
It's a little fiddly with the all the economies and stuff like that, and there's a lot of luck involved, but it plays with this theme very well. I think, and if you can just get into that space, then there you go. Like you're going to get some stories out of that.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time when I played that, and Tom played this group where the Planta, and he had a cognitive leap where he goes like, oh, their ships aren't weak, they're just limited. And then but he'd made this leap before anyone else did, and he just like slashed through my empire. Like I could not stop him. Everyone else is just watching me going like, oh, good luck. And like, if I die, it's like the Hunger Games. Like, if I burn, you burn.
And it only get stronger.
That's right. He just devastated me, and it's one of my fondest memories of that game.
Oh, that's awesome.
Being beaten by that.
Well, I hope we get 2.0 one of these days.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. My number 8 is War of the Ring.
Yes.
I'll also put this in a category of giant, grand, epic, 2-player only games, which I would also add Twilight Struggle and Star Wars Rebellion to those. I think you can have this memory-creating experience with any of those 3 games, but War of the Ring is my favorite thematic 2-player game. It is a 3-hour plus long game. It is only 2-player. One person takes the armies of Sauron. One person takes the free folk of Middle-earth. And it is the closest I've ever come to actually seeing somebody turn a book into a game. The whole book is there. You play through the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy. But you often, much like in great historical games, you can go, what if we don't go to Mordor? And it creates such amazing, hilarious storylines. But it's also, there is dice in the game, so there are exciting rolls of Frodo trying to not get turned towards the eye.
Sure.
And but it creates stories if you have the right person for it, of which there are not many out there in terms of finding somebody who's down to play a 3-hour game at least 10 times. I don't think you can get the game in less than 10 plays. It's that deep of a game.
Would this be a couples game?
A very special couple. But yes, I mean, my wife. Look, my child's name is Strider. We took our honeymoon to New Zealand to go on a Lord of the Rings tour. I would not play this game with her, and I don't know a person who loves Lord of the Rings more than my wife. And I think she would glaze over at the teach.
Gotcha.
But yes, a very special couple would love to play a 3-hour long, near perfect re-implementation of the Lord of the Rings games. Yeah.
For what number we're at?
7.
7. My 7th game is Ricochet Robots.
Yes.
Ricochet
Robots. Game played in total silence.
That's right. And so basically, if you don't know Ricochet Robots, there's a board, there's a bunch of tokens on the board, and there are 5 robots that basically move, and they don't stop moving until they hit a wall or another robot.
Right.
And the goal is basically to get a certain robot to a certain token, to pick up that token. So it requires a number of moves, and the great thing about this game is it can play as many people as can see the board.
It's just you're not actually touching the pieces. You just
do it in your head.
You're doing it in your head and trying to figure out the shortest possible route. And
the thing that makes this game fun, there's 2 things. This is it has a real-time tension to it. You have to do this you're racing against everyone else, which is some people like that sort of tension, some people don't. But more than that, I feel that it's a great game because even when you don't get it, when you getting to watch someone's excellence is rewarding. And so for me, one of my favorite memories of it was I was playing this with my nephew and Tom, and my nephew just casually one time goes 16. And that's a huge amount of moves. You have to move 16 times to get to and it's huge.
Yeah.
And I go dude, you're like 13. You do not have a 16. and he shows it. I was like, "Bow, bow." I was like, wow. And I was just so happy. Like, like, well done, sir. Well done. You are now a man. Congratulations. And so, I mean, I think that I think it's great for families.
Yeah.
Because like you're all playing, and you're all kind of rooting for each other and not rooting for each other as well. So yeah. I think that creates a lot of opportunities for happiness.
Yeah, I love that. My number 7 is legacy games as well. I'm going to go with Gloomhaven. I think Gloomhaven is the most apt to make memories in that it is sort of an RPG feel where you're going to be bonded with these characters and you're going to go on crazy adventures together. The legacy to me is not the most important part of it, although I think it technically is one, although you are changing the board game. But it's such a long campaign that it's more like a system that you own, that you bring out and play when you want to. It doesn't always have to be with the same group. And I think there's also fun stories to be had with like, oh, that Tom played that character for a few months, but he doesn't like the game anymore. You're taking it over. He's really strong. He's good at the, there's some fun stories in like taking over other people's characters. I just think it's impossible to play Gloomhaven and not create stories out of it. I think
Absolutely.
Anybody who owns it probably has 1 or 2 great stories from gameplay experiences playing it.
Absolutely.
And it'd be crazy to have a list without it on it.
I definitely feel the same. And I'm glad you put it because I didn't. For my number 6, Battlestar Galactica.
Yep.
I'm a person who likes social deduction games. This one changed it all with the mid-game trader aspect, where basically you're going off, you're playing, you think you're one thing, and then middle of the game, actually you're a bad guy, and it's done in such seamless way that it's when we first saw it, we were like fascinated with it. It was like crazy amazing.
It was my entry point. It was the first modern board game I ever played.
And like right now, like there's an aspect of it where the meta has kind of destroyed its I don't say utility, but like its goodness, because like now you kind of if I'm human, I'm gonna kind of like slow play the end game condition until the second spy is released. And if I'm the second spy, I'll try to destroy. And if I am good, I'll race towards the end. That I feel like that has hurt it because you don't. This game hurts. It's hurt by the meta.
Yeah.
Like if you want to win this game, there's a way to play to win, but it kind of hurts the spirit of the game. But I have when this was the first deduction game I played with like my group, and there was one moment where I was a bad guy. I knew I was a bad guy. Tom gets to look at my loyalty card. He looks at my loyalty card and he goes, "I am good."
Yeah.
And I was going like, "Oh, I know something. We know something. Everyone else is toast." And it was just so. It was like, oh my god, I know what this game is now. It was so. And there was another time where, not to say that this is a common theme with our group, but Dimitri had a choice to make. It was either trust me or trust Tom. Tom was on the edge. He was on the edge of of going too far. He was like, "You stupid, do not pick Paul. I swear, you're gonna regret this. You're gonna regret this." And Dimitri's go, "I pick Paul." Oh, Paul's bad. And like Dimitri's like, "Ah." Tom is like red faced. It was so good. It was so good. Like it's some great, crazy table flip memories. And it's like if you can play it without trying to win and just play for the experience, I think you're gonna have a great time. I think
that's true about a lot of these games on our list.
Absolutely.
I think you'll see Battlestar much higher up on my my list as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my number 6 is Dune / Cosmic Encounters. I cannot split them up.
Okay.
They are by the same design team of Bill Everly, Jack Kitteridge, Bill Norton, and Peter Olatka. Dune and Cosmic Encounter are 2 classic board games from the 70s, re-implemented recently and coming out in a brand new version coming out soon from Gale Force 9. They are the estates of asymmetrical games.
Yep.
And the estates is just one thing boiled down to perfection. Asymmetrical games will never get better than Cosmic Encounter and Dune in terms of just this is what asymmetrical games start as. Everything else is building off from those two. These are games where wildly unbalanced is a feature, not a bug.
Exactly.
Wildly unbalanced. Unbalanced on purpose. Cosmic Encounter is not meant to be there is no tournament version of Cosmic Encounter that could ever be played.
The Sniveler.
Yeah, exactly. There are characters that you can pick in Cosmic Encounters that are not just better than all others, but OP to the point of laughably broken.
Sure.
Just, you might as well have one that just says, if you pick this person wins, but you still have to play the whole game. But, if you are open to that, if you like that experience, and often that creates great stories because somebody goes, that power is crazy strong, everybody gang up on that person for the whole game, and you see if it can become a 5 versus 1, and if they still can win. Dune, obviously, is a little more balanced, but still, the fun of the game is how crazy different they all play, and how sort of OP they all are in a different way.
Like, one of those games is higher on my list.
Well, there you go. Yeah, but to me, Cosmic Encounters, I just think it is designed to create stories and memories. It's almost a system of creating stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
With some rules around it.
No, it's great. I think Cosmic Encounter is one of the first games that we played.
Yeah,
and there was a point where I think, what was it, the peace people? Like you can, I'm gonna say peace and you say peace, and then I betrayed you.
Right. We can not fight by just saying we don't want to fight.
Yeah, and I betrayed you, and you were so pissed. This is like the second game we played ago, and you were like, oh, you're gonna do that, and then it was just one of my favorite memories of that. Like,
any game with a betrayal mechanic in it is going to create some stories.
Exactly. For my number 5, I picked Kremlin. Have you ever played Kremlin?
I have not.
Kremlin is a really fun game in the
very old game.
Very old game. It's like, I think it's $150 now if you can get it. But basically
from 1986, Kremlin.
Yeah, you're basically trying to be, how should I say it the best way? There are a bunch of Russian leaders. You're trying to have influence over the head leader, and if you can get the head leader to survive and wave to, like, there's a kind of a parade, and if you can wave to the people 3 times, you win the game. And the problem is, like, everyone, like, the person who has the visible influence controls that person, but someone can have, like, hidden influence, and the person with the most influence actually gets those points.
Right.
So what you wind up happening is having this kind of secret movement of the people into, like, higher positions. But the thing that makes the game great is that everyone is old, and everyone you roll dice and you basically see if they die.
Everyone's old. Right.
And so here's a 60-year-old guy. He's like, oh, the stress of Parliament or whatever has really, he's aged 3 years, and now he's getting more likely to get sick. And so you're betting on these old horses, basically.
Yep.
And I think it's hilarious. And like I remember this one game where I was going to win only if I rolled a 20, and it was just me and Tom. And I hit the 20. And I go, like, I won! And Tom goes, yeah, but I played better. And so it was just
the most Tom thing he's ever said.
But yeah, it's so fun. Like, it's, once again, like, it's so much dice related stuff.
Yeah.
You wind up, you can't aim to win. You can only aim to have fun. But I think if you can get a copy of it,
I think a lot of these I think we've also made a list of games Trey would rather die than play.
This is yeah. I don't know, a little bit.
My number 5 is Quartermaster General.
Yes.
I would put this alongside any team games. I think Captain Sonar is a great team game. Codenames is a team game.
Sure.
Teach You is a team game. Any game where you and someone else are pitted against other people is going to facilitate some memories. To me, the best version of it is Quartermaster General, which is a 6-player only World War II game of 3 teams fighting against each other, Axis versus Allies, everybody with a completely asymmetrical deck. If you can get 6 people together, the game can be taught in 10 minutes. It's
Absolutely.
a very simple game. The game is literally draw a card, play a card. That's your turn. It's very fun. It also, you have to go into it knowing it's potentially unbalanced and going to be a little silly.
Yep.
But there is fun and laughter and immersive storylines to come out of it.
No, I love that game. It would be on my list if not for the fact that it's sort of new for us.
Yeah, it is. But so that's why I sort of put Captain Sonar. We have memories from that. I know there's a million memories from Codenames and Teach You that have come over the years. But any of those games where these team games can often create really great memories.
Absolutely.
Number 4.
Are we on number 4 already?
Yeah.
My number 4 is Captain Sonar.
Hey.
Hey. So like we don't actually play this game in our group
because one player hated it so much I sold it.
Oh, well, yeah, I think, but I think we might have given up on it a little too soon.
Yeah.
Like, once again, like this.
Tell people what it is.
So basically, you want to play when you have 8 people.
4 on each side.
Exactly. And you're basically competing submarines. It's basically, is there a submarine?
Hunt for Red October?
Basically, yeah.
It's Hunt for Red October. But there's like a barrier that the game comes with, so almost like a D&D screen that separates the table in half with 4 on one side and 4 on the other. You have to have a big table.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And basically, one person is captain, one person is the navigator,
one
engineer.
The missiles, like everybody has a different job on the submarine.
And so basically, the game is, can I find and destroy the other submarine before they do to me?
Right. You're basically playing a very complicated version of Battleship.
Yeah, exactly.
You're trying to find their spot, and you're trying to shoot weapons at it, and then go, did I hit you? And they go, yes or no.
And I feel like this is almost like a team sport. Like, and your ability to really submit to that is really going to depend on...
It's almost like a MOBA or something.
Yeah,
like you could like train for it.
Exactly. And I feel like we gave up on it just a little too soon because there's some fiddly aspects. It's imperfect. Like the game is imperfect.
I found it a little too fiddly and a little too. There's a lot of gray area in what was legal and what wasn't.
And I feel like if we had just defined what truly,
we had to house rule some stuff, I think, to make it work.
But like there's one time I remember David was the captain. And our
David
friend
Gillison is a friend who plays with us a lot.
Our friend Rob, it was an engineer, first time playing. And so, like, we are getting rocked. Like, our ship, David turns over to Rob and goes, "What are you doing?" And Rob's going, "I don't know how to play this." and can you just imagine that in the submarine? It's just like a movie moment. And I was like, "Oh my god!"
The stress levels are so high.
We lost, but like it was so fun just to see that moment. I'll go to the grave with that moment.
Yeah, I guess high stress levels is also it creates memories.
Exactly,
very high stress levels.
It was great. So yeah, I think we gave up on it too soon. But like I think if you have the right group of 8, you're going to find that a rewarding game.
Right. My number 4 is Dice Masters.
Whoa! Now, are you serious?
Let's tell a little story here. So, Paul and I, our friendship was cemented, by a game called Marvel Dice Masters. So, what is Marvel Dice Masters? Marvel Dice Masters is not a good game by any stretch, but it is a fun game.
Yep.
And it came at a time in our lives when I think we both had time to. So basically, it's deck building with dice. You have characters and a pool of dice, and you are deck building, and then Paul and I went to a series of tournaments for Marvel Dice Masters.
We got a lot of grief for this, by the way.
Yeah. So it's not. Look, this is a very light, silly game with a low amount of strategy in it, but a high amount of tactics.
Sure.
But the person who rolls better is going to win.
Yep.
Or the person who spends the most on expensive, rare characters that are overpowered because they're rare.
Yep.
Will often win. But to me, having a friend that you play any form of sort of deck building or living card game. So Netrunner, Game of Thrones, Arkham Horror LCG, Magic the Gathering, any of these sort of competitive deck building, team building games that you can take to tournaments. If you have a friend that is as committed as you are in that, you are going to have stories for life.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when we went to that Netrunner tournament.
Yeah.
And like we only played with ourselves, and we go like, "Oh, we got this."
Yeah.
Like,
we were dope. Yeah. We thought we were so good.
We drove to Pasadena. We played Netrunner with people who really knew how to play.
Yeah.
And it was so
demoralizing.
It was so shocking to me. Like, I did not even understand what was possible with the game.
We had a 2-person meta, and we were like, we're good.
Yeah. And so these kids, like, were just playing, and they destroyed me so badly, and they were so nice. I think they went to divinity school or something.
Yeah.
They were just so nice, and they just completely wrecked my deck. I stopped playing the game. It was too much. It was too shameful to play. I was like, oh my god, I don't even know anything.
Yeah. I think there are a few game systems that will create more memories between you and a friend or a group of friends if you have multiple people to do it than joining some sort of a competitive deck building world, because there's a creativity to it.
Absolutely.
Because there is you and a friend who have your own thoughts on what's strong and what's weak. You're working from the same pool of cards or dice or whatever, and you both show up. And so, what are you playing today? All right, what are you playing? or you deck test each other's decks on each other. You prepare for the tournament. You go, all right, this is going to be a strong deck. Let me try against you. go to the tournament, get wrecked, win, whatever. It's one of the highlights of my life as a person who likes games is that experience.
Absolutely. I'm really touched that you put Dice Master. That's a brave choice. That's a brave choice.
Number 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 3 for you.
I'm gonna get a lot of grief for this.
Oh, jeez.
D&D 5e.
Yeah.
I like it. Like, now I understand that we have a board game group who kind of poo-poos like Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. But I feel that, if you've played a bunch of RPGs, most people start off with Dungeons and Dragons, and then if you play a lot of other ones and come back to Dungeons and Dragons, you'll find that you play it differently than a person who's first time, who just wants to, power max their what you call it. And
when somebody understands what it really is, they play it differently.
Exactly. And those restrictions that you have with Dungeons and Dragons that people find are limiting are actually they're freeing. Like, I love playing board games that you're a murder hobo and you're just kind of going through and killing a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. And this is just a freer version of that. Like, I'm surprised in some ways that people look down on that, because you do it with a board game with miniatures.
Yeah.
But my biggest suggestion is you shouldn't play with people who are all like-minded. You'll find that
you want our group of 8 very different players.
Exactly. Like, one of my favorite memories was when I was DMing and we're playing, and Jesse was he was the Firewatch. He's guarding everyone at night, and I had an owl bear just kind of walk through the camp. Everyone's sleeping, and Jesse's just watching the owl bear walk into camp, not alarming anyone, just going. And goes, "What are you doing, Jesse?" In my mind, as DM, going like, "You're supposed to not let that thing kill your surprise." Yeah. Hey guys, Jesse, where were you? Like, what? Just having that kind of rationalization of like, what are you doing? It's just hilarious. I called him owl bear behind his back,
or to his face,
But I think like those type of memories, like having that person who thinks about the game differently, is going to cause some great interactions.
Absolutely. I think you will find D&D higher on my list than you had it.
There's only 3 more.
It's going to be a little higher. Yep. My number 3 is Secret Hitler.
Really?
Now, I'm putting this alongside Avalon and Werewolf.
Sure.
All right, they're all the same. But I think Secret Hitler is the most memory-creating of all of these. Because you're going to create memories by calling your friends Hitler.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think there's a little more noob-friendly randomness to Secret Hitler that I think can create more immersive storylines and involves less strategy than Avalon. And to me, I enjoy Secret Hitler much more than Avalon.
Sure.
Because the play experience is much less punitive. And you still have control. I still think the better team will win, but there is a little more randomness thrown in, which I think improves a game like this. And I think also, I think Secret Hitler. In fact, in the 10 games we played of Secret Hitler and the 500 we played of Avalon, I think we have probably an equal amount of stories created out of both of them.
I would disagree, but but
I mean, we're still calling Alfred Hitler as 10 years later. We haven't played it. We still tell jokes about that game.
Sure.
To me, it's I think Secret Hitler. I've played it with my wife's family. We have stories from those games. I just think it's a story creating system.
Absolutely.
And I think Avalon or Werewolf does the job similarly. I just think the best of them for creating stories specifically is Secret Hitler.
Cool. Number 2. My number 2 is Dune.
Yeah.
First of all, I love this IP. So like it really helps to.
Well, you are Paul Muad'Dib.
Muad'Dib. I love the books. I like the movie. The movies, plural.
Yeah. I like anything with Dune involved in it at all.
Exactly, and I'm really excited for the.
I am the Quetzalcoatl Haderach. The sleeper has awoken.
I love the fact that they're remaking Dune. I love the director they've chosen for it.
In fact, I'd say all games you love are in some way a Gom Jabbar. What is inside the box, Paul?
That's right.
Pain.
Like pain. There's only pain. Paul is the box, and everything in Paul is pain. Now, Doom is far from a perfect game. Like, it can last 4 hours.
Yeah.
It can last 45
Doom could be the
minutes.
best game ever or the worst game ever.
Yeah, and you have to be in the mood for that. It's unbalanced, wildly swingy. live interactivity. The way I describe it is like a stunt in Jackass. Like basically you put 5 friends in a shopping cart and you're going to try to jump over Springfield Gorge. That's what you're doing. And like, the person who makes it across wins or not.
Yeah.
And so I just have some great memories of like, people playing the Bene Gesserit and going like, oh, here's all your guys. There were all your guys. Yeah. One person kills off like whatever.
It's also perfectly. It's almost. I'd say it's equal to War of the Ring in terms of capturing the book.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you if you know that book, I mean, you feel like the Bene Gesserits when you're like mind reading and knowing what people are going to do, and you see the future because you decide what the future is.
It's so good. The
Harkonnens are so Harkonnen. Like it's so great.
I would say that like it's an expensive game. It's out of print.
Well, you'll be getting a brand new version of it within the next year, I believe.
And
I will not be able to buy. I will not be able to press the buy button fast enough when that comes online.
Absolutely.
I can't. I will break my computer hitting buy so fast.
You have to love the IP though. Like it's like if you played the Game of Thrones LCG. If you don't know Game of Thrones at all, it's just a bunch of mechanics. Like this. If you love the IP, this is a must buy.
Well, so Fantasy Flight Games re-implemented it in a game called Rex: Final Days of an Empire, and we played it, and nobody wanted to play it ever again. And we realized how much Dune was a huge part of that game working for us. And they also changed the rules a little bit, but for the most part, I don't want to play it with a theme I don't care about.
Yeah, like there's random aliens. It's not interesting.
Not my vibe. My number 2 is Battlestar Galactica. I know, Paul. Battlestar Galactica was the first board game I ever played, and of the modern board games that wasn't Monopoly and Sorry and Risk.
Sure.
I still think it's one of the greatest story systems of all time. It blew my mind. It was the game that it showed me what games could be, and I think what really got me into the hobby was the fact that the combining of mechanics with storylines.
Yep.
And finding storytelling systems that with rules around them that are interesting. And it was complicated to me and exciting, but the whole concept of unzipping and that there's a bad person amongst us, that's all I wanted out of games. When I first got into the hobby, I was just like, I didn't think of myself as into the hobby. I was like, I want to play games where one person is bad and everyone else is good. That's all I cared about.
Sure.
I was like, that was a mechanic to me that blew my mind.
Yeah, no, it's
and the tension of that, and in Battlestar Galactica, everybody's good except there's a chance someone's bad at the beginning, but there's also a chance that nobody's bad at the beginning. But you have to assume that there might be somebody bad in the beginning. But by the second phase of the game, there's definitely somebody bad, and maybe two.
Yeah.
And the moment of unzipping, that's what it's called when somebody becomes says you're bad. But we still use the phrase unzipping in every game we play. Like, are you unzipping now? You have to explain to people who don't know what that means that you're not being body. But it's there's so much. I think back on that phase as like the happiest I've ever been in this hobby, just because it was all so new to me and exciting.
Yeah.
And you're sitting down to play, and it's like it has that feeling of a D&D experience of like you're sitting down and there's so many possibilities, and it's also creative, and you can't trust anyone at the table. And I actually didn't know any of these people I was playing with for the most part. It was all Tom and this new group I had never met before. So I cannot think of fonder memories. Battlestar Galactica is a Grail game right now. It is a $250 game if you want to get a copy of it. It is completely out of print and impossible to get.
I didn't realize that.
If you want the experience of Battlestar Galactica in a game that you can get for $50, it's called Dead of Winter.
Okay.
It's not as good of a theme to me. Battlestar Galactica is one of my favorite shows ever, and I like it a lot more than just generic zombies. But I think Dead of Winter did a decent job of recreating Battlestar Galactica with a little bit more of an actual storyline into the game.
Sure.
Battlestar Galactica, the storyline is whatever you add to it. Dead of Winter has this crossroads system where actually cards are telling stories, and so I think if you want that experience, you'll get it from Dead of Winter.
Good. Like like I said, great game.
Great game.
Yep.
It's a bummer that it's totally out of print, and I think they lost the rights to the license, so I think you'll never see it.
Oh my God.
Again. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, here we go. Number 1.
I honestly. Well, hold on. Let me see if I can figure this out. Oh, it's Avalon. Duh.
That's right. Of course, it's Avalon.
I was kidding.
Like, yeah. So to me, like we've talked about Avalon a lot in this game, and if you don't own it, you should own it. It's cheap.
It's like $10.
And it's a perfect game, and here's why it's a perfect game to me. It is the only game that we have that we play regularly, or actually the only game that I've seen.
We play it at least once a month.
Yeah, the only game that I've seen that the theme and the meta are the same. Like, there's no superfluous, like, oh, here is this theme that we have, but the meta is actually this. Like, this is where you are either a good guy, you're a bad guy. As a good guy, the meta is try to find all, the good guys and pick the right team. The bad guy is to deceive. It's all out there. And it's so rich. And the only caveat is, like, you just have to find people who want to play.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough. Like, it's always changing when you have that group, because, like, the meta keeps on growing.
Yeah.
And it's more than anything, like, it creates these memories because you're playing with people. No one has a distinct advantage. Like, there are times, like what I say about the estates, like Tom is really good at assessment, but no one has a perfect read.
Right.
No one goes, oh, you
cannot solve the game.
Exactly. And I really enjoy that aspect about it, and how every time, well, not every time, but like when we play, it reveals character. Like, it reveals something about you.
And it potentially changes your character. I think that's true.
Like watching the growth between Trey of then to Trey of now is lovely. I'm seeing it with Alfred. It's good. It's so,
Alfred still pretty much just shuts down during most games, though.
But still, like, when he's able to, like yesterday when we were playing, I was watching Matt, and Matt was good, and he was like desperately pleading with Trey. You have to trust me. Trey was like, I'm going. I go, wow. If Matt could just be this when he was bad, like, play with the same emphaticness.
I'm gonna have to now.
Like, it would be I could not tell.
Yeah,
it would be so good. He'd be so good, and then the meta would have to change completely again.
Well, I need to do that now.
Yeah, no, like,
I have to start playing like that no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's hard to say that it shouldn't be your number one, but why is it not mine? Because my number one is Dungeons and Dragons. There's just there's just no game that is better at creating memories ever to be made than Dungeons and Dragons. Replace it with whatever RPG you like, but just the concept of a group of people getting together to literally tell a story and to create your own characters. It's the character creation part of that's going to create memories. It's what do you really want to be in this fantasy world that you're stepping into? That says so much about who you are. It's going to set so much about the group. Watching your friends sort of perform these different characters other than their own to make decisions outside of themselves, but you still know it's really them. And what are they showing you, their true self, or are they playing against their type?
Exactly.
Because it's fun to be different. It's going to create stories. I got super into it about 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I DM'd. I decided I had to check the bucket list of DMing.
Nerd requirement.
Yeah, I had to DM at one point in my life. So I bought all the books when 5e had just come out, I believe. I bought all the books. I got so obsessed with it. I got wildly obsessed with it. Anybody listening to this knows what my level of obsession is. It was bad for D&D. I got bad obsessed.
Sure.
I mean, the amount of times I read that Dungeon Master's Guide, I think I had it memorized basically by the time we sat down. I put way too much time into planning each one of our sessions. I took it so seriously because I was like, I'm a writer by trade.
Sure.
Like, I have to be
good.
I have to be incredible at this.
Yeah.
And
you were great.
I was fine. To not be incredible at it to me was like ridiculous. Like, this is what I do for a living. Like, I have to be good at this. This is great. Like, it was like a game that was like, and it stressed me out. And actually, why I never want to do it again. It's because, like, it's
time suck. You have a baby now.
Well, I have a baby now, but beyond that, like, it's what I do for a living every day. Like, that's the opposite of why I want to play games. Yeah, and it was something I'm glad I did. But we still talk about all the jokes from there.
Sure.
Like, even during, like, I think having a Jesse in your group for D&D is wildly important.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody who is not necessarily going to do what you asked them to do. Like, I remember at the beginning of the game, I was like, guys, this is my first time DMing. I'm not saying go on rails, but like, it would be great if we all just sort of stuck together, because I'm learning this too. Literally, I think 3 minutes later, Jesse goes, "Okay, guys, there's like a cart broken down in the middle of the road. You're all standing, far enough away. They haven't seen you yet. What do you do?" Jesse goes, "I've already walked up to the cart." I was like, "Okay, guys, good to know. Jesse's gone." So it definitely made me have to step outside my comfort zone playing with Jesse, where I think the rest of you were a little more like, well, let's be easy on Matt.
I will say, like, the thing I love most about D&D is, and it's trite now, but like the alignment system.
Yeah.
No, we
talk about that all the time.
Exactly.
Are you chaotic neutral? Are you lawful good?
Yeah, and I was going to say we could break down the people, but we're not going to. But,
Yeah.
but you know, like,
well, that is that we've done it with Street Fighter. We've told you who all of the members in our group are Street Fighter. We will do their alignment.
Or you guys can like write us and tell us what you think we are.
Yeah, you're chaotic neutral. We all know.
Maybe who knows? But you know, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Like, you know, can you tell what we are from our podcast persona?
That was a great list, Paul.
Thanks, man. I had a lot of fun making this list.
Me too. Thank you for coming up with this idea. This was fantastic.